got to it when I went out. Killed my head. Let's do this then. Why not? We were like 4 seconds. I think else is going to join. So, yeah, that's how I like to start. Right. Coach Helen for you. I almost said something else then. You Fit Studio. Got the S word in my mind. Getting stuff done, right? Now, why is it important at the minute? I could go at this at different angles, probably than when I originally planned it again, because things have changed since I originally planned this. There's a sense of, I'm going to use the word, okay? I'm going to use the word because I have heard it a lot over the last week to 10 days, exceptionally more than normal, which is the feeling of overwhelmed. So a lot of people are talking about how overwhelmed they're feeling or how overwhelming their situation is. And often what happens with the sense of being overwhelmed is not much actually happens, okay? Now, I've done a live specifically on this, and I may revisit it again, actually, just because it is so high topic at the moment. And just as a recap or a refresh, when I've spoken about this before, so the sense of feeling overwhelmed is kind of like a state that's created. Isn't kind of, it is an emotional state that's created through a set of thought processes, which is the same as all emotional states are created, except with a sense of overwhelm. There's very much the constant flow of thoughts, because there is so much going on in someone's mind, as in, I'm meant to be doing this, I'm meant to be doing that, this is meant to be happening, why am I not doing this, in a constant stream. The resulting emotion is actually the sense of overwhelmed or being overwhelmed. Really what's happening is that there is no sense of priority, there is no sense of order as such, and the terminology I use is like not being able to see the wood for the trees. So actually what somebody's seeing is just that blah in front of them. And actually what happens is there's kind of a very stationary response, as in, because there's so much that the individual may, or you may feel that you have to do or is meant to be done, that actually the ironic thing is that nothing gets done, actually. And if you've ever been in that situation where you literally, I don't know if you're planning, like, say you're planning a big event or planning something massive, loads of people involved, and you just don't know where to start. And so that's what happens. Not many people actually start the process when they're in that emotional state, because there is so much, it's overwhelming where to start, and so no starting happens. So really, when I talk about getting stuff done, I'm kind of also linking it into that sense of overwhelm, because those are the two things that work very closely together, because there's nothing happening. And actually the easiest way to look at it, and I've done this over 4 steps into how to start making things move, essentially. Why then is it important? Why do I think it's important? Certainly with a sense of feeling overwhelmed, there's also a sense of hopelessness as well, which sounds quite dramatic. And I don't mean it to sound dramatic. There is a sense of hopelessness, though, hello Rena, around it, where someone feels that they don't have control over their situation because they don't know where to start. So it's all kind of almost like an animal in itself, right? So there's a sense of having no control, feeling of not being productive. It's almost like I talked about limiting beliefs last week. Just going to sip of my tea. Is this arrived? Bit of Keith Lemon. I feel like that's my hair. Look, I've got into Keith Lemon hair. I just made this realisation live. Look, Keith Lemon's hair on my head. Also, lockdown crazies. It also leads to, let's get back on track, leads to kind of leading into the limiting belief we talked about a bit last week, as in I don't have time to do anything, I can't get anything done, my limiting things, I can't do anything because of kids, I can't do anything because of work, etc. And therefore there's just nothing happening, and that leads to a sense of less productivity, less efficiency, a sense of, again, this is language of clients, not, it sounds quite dramatic, worthlessness, feeling of not being able to contribute either to a family or to themselves or to the work, etc. So actually starting to get the ball moving when it comes to things like feeling overwhelmed, this kind of like covers some of this. And if you are in that place, right, where you're feeling overwhelmed, this is a great kind of basic strategy, if you like, to deploy and just to see and test how it helps you move out of where you are right now. Because that's the main thing, right? It's to acknowledge, yes, that's where you're feeling overwhelmed, and also kind of to set something in place, even if it's just a couple of steps to say, right, I need to change this, because if I stay in this state, and this is a question if you ask yourself, if you're feeling like you're not getting anything done, you're feeling overwhelmed, if I stay in this state right now, where will I be in 4 to 6 weeks time? Now, these are easy steps, right, for a very good reason, okay? Because lots of people go, well, actually, if I stay where I am, it's going to be horrendous. I can't stay like this. I just can't see a way to get to where I was. That's such a big distance for how I was prior to all this. I can manage everything. Now I can't. That's too big of a leap, right? So the reasons why it has to be easy, it has to be basic, it has to be manageable and easy for you to actually take the baby step, right? So actually take the baby step. So here we go. Step 1. It sounds simple, but actually if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's a small step. It's worth your time, should we say. Clearly identifying your priorities and tasks, right? So the thing is about seeing all these trees and not seeing the wood is just a mass, right? If you imagine you're just going to think about it, just picture in your head, just sitting in front of wood, and every single tree in that wood is something you need to do. Trying to focus on one, if you're just like that, right, is impossible. And that's what it's like. And if you've never had this experience, that's a great description of it, so say myself, because focusing on what you actually need to do, or what each task is, or each tree in the wood, is very difficult unless actually you just focus down and say, right, okay, here's a task and list of things I actually need to do. And think about, there's options of prioritizing here. What would happen if I don't do this task, for example? Always think about the consequences of not doing it, because often that also leads to lack of movement, right? So if you're not getting something done, always consider, right, what is the consequences of me not doing it, right? Once I list out those things, well, that's a side point. Okay, get this. Studies show you're 42%, I love throwing in stats, 42% more likely to complete a goal if you write it down, right? Interesting. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not getting anything done at the minute, first things first, assess and understand what tasks are, write them down, because you're 42% more likely to get something done if you write it down. Now, if, again, that is too, even if you write down a list and go, oh, this one's massive, that's overwhelming, I'm overwhelmed by even this task alone, do the same process again and break it down into smaller elements, okay? Make each step as small as it needs to be if at the minute you're too overwhelmed to look at even one small part of that task. It's not the case of going, well, that's too much, I'm going to leave it again. I'm not going to do it, I'm going to wait, I'm going to procrastinate, I'm going to let it be. Too much for me to deal with. Make it as small as it needs to. Don't be scared of making it smaller. I think a lot of people are at the minute, like, oh, you know, well, I could have dealt with this before. I can't. There's some element of like, why can't I do this? Why have I got to make it so easy? Well, actually, rather than fighting it, sometimes it's just good to say, right, okay, if I do something though, it's still something, right? Understand what it's a must do, right? It's critical. I talked about this when I did specifically that overwhelmed before. Understand the difference between what you're thinking you need to do in your head, which is everything, obviously, like cook, clean, school teach, get paid, look after relatives, food shop, all of it, right? The thing is, there's some things always that aren't a must. There would like to, there's like a perfect world. If you start to cut down, you use the same energy, just cut down some of those trees, you will start to see the ones that you really need to focus on. Often though, if you're not seeing everything at the same level of importance, that's where lack of action happens, because everything's as important as the next thing. Well, if there's 30 things to do and they're all screaming at you at the same volume and you all need to be done at the same deadline, which one is going to get done first? Well, the answer is none of them, as I said earlier. That leads to inaction. So the thing is, cut down, actually identify which ones can be cut out of the picture, so you're left with the actual work you can do. Important then, make the tree smaller, right? Okay, we're on step 2, yeah. Let me have a sip of my Keith Lemon, my hair tea. People listening to this later will have no idea. Basically, I'm sipping from a mug of tea with Keith Lemon, and it looks very much like my lock hair down hair is heading towards. I might keep this. If I'm lucky, I might even straight borrow the moustache as well. We've got time. Step 2. Make it easy to start, okay? Easy is the theme of these steps, right? Easy. Make sure you can do what you set out to do. There's, again, this is about making it small and easy. If you identify everything you need to do, and then you do that massive task that will take me 16 hours to do today, I'm going to do this. with some kind of understanding that it's unlikely to happen, then you kind of set yourself up to struggle in getting it done, right? So make it as easy as you can, break it down, okay? I'm using very, very simple, very common things come up in a minute, and it sounds very small. It's quite a big thing to some people. Helen, I can't do 10,000 steps. I'm failing. I can't do it. There's too much going on. I'm so overwhelmed. I can't leave the house. I've got to teach the kids. I've got to cook dinner. By the time that's done, I've got to clean the house. Then my husband's coming home and he wants to be fed, etc., etc. Can't do 10,000. I can't do anything. It's like, okay, 5. Can't do 5. 4, 3, 2. Right? If it needs to be 1,000 steps, this is what I'm saying when I say this is extreme. Like, break it down that small. It has to be that small. But make it easy. So make step 1, identify and break them down if they're too high. Step 2, make it easy, break them down if they're too high. See where I'm going with this? Make it easy, right? Whew. Step 3 kind of leads in with my 16 hours reference. Manage your time wisely. Now, that kind of sounds easier said than done. Certainly if you're like, right now, if you just go, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't even think about time. It's about sometimes thinking outside of where you are at the moment and what that actually means. Now, if I think about actually in terms of feeling overwhelmed, actually managing your time wisely arguably could be actually just spending 3 minutes to yourself, in all fairness, right? However, when I say managing time wisely, it's also about identifying, once you've cut down all those trees, once you're really left with what needs to be done and what has to be done. Most clients I speak to when I do this activity discover that there's a lot more time that they do actually have once they realise that they're kind of like thinking they have to be everywhere at the same time, and this is going to take like 4 hours, this is going to take another hour, this is going to take another 3 hours. Actually, if they start to chisel away at it, what they're left with is actually more time, and it can be used more wisely, i.e. for themselves, which can therefore spread out across the rest of the day. So when I say wisely, I'm not saying that the enemy's not doing that right now. I'm saying that sometimes you have to look at it from a slightly different perspective to understand there's more time there than you often think. And one of the things I do say, I do challenge people on, and is part of the drop 2 size challenge as well, is about your screen time. Now, lots of people will, I would say, I'm going to put this as delicately as possible, because I'm not this is again not any judgment. Lots of clients, including myself, I'm guilty of this as well, say I don't have time to do things, I'm overwhelmed, etc. If you really look at your own screen time and actually identify where you're placing your time and your energy, it's a very interesting thing to do, right? Because it kind of leads on into the whys of your time. Because someone say I haven't got time to get X, Y, Z done. They may have 2 to 3 hours of social media time on their phone somewhere throughout the day, which is not that unusual, really. In terms of hours, that's not unusual. So then there's kind of a question you've got to ask yourself, and this may be something for you as well, even if you're not getting stuff done, even, right? If you just take aside the overwhelmed feeling, if you're not getting things done and the perception is you don't have time, have a little shaft. It's quite enlightening to think, wow, what could I be doing with X time of day when I'm looking at that news app or social media? Where else could my time be going if I wasn't attached to that phone? It's an interesting exercise, as well, I can say. Step 4, counting lots today. Change up some of the ways you look at your deadlines, okay? A really good one, especially if you just want to get stuff done. Lots of kind of put a lot of pressure on, or too little pressure, one way or the other, right? You can give yourself a hard deadline, you can create your own accountability, you can tell me you need to get something done and I'll be hounding you, I'll be on your back, right? Absolutely, if it gets the ball rolling. I did something about that just recently, right? The forward momentum of getting something done is brilliant, right? Even if it's something small, this is why I talk about small. The smaller the better, because even when you do something small, the forward momentum from that feeling can be enough to push somebody completely out of where they are in terms of mental state, physical state, all of it. It can be enough. I've seen it. It's brilliant. It only takes one small thing. It's like a little tiny snowball. And when people are making those snowmen, some epic snowmen I saw last week, but it is actually like that. You use the forward momentum from one behaviour, one habitual change, is enough to really change your overall view. So again, can't say it enough, the smaller the better. The main thing is you make it achievable. So let's recap. So getting stuff done, or the sense of overwhelmed as well, and adding that one in as a sidebar, main part of it, to be fair. Why is it important? Because getting stuff done makes you feel productive, it makes you feel valued, it kind of counters your own sense of your own limiting belief, there's no time, I can't do anything, not capable, etc, etc. These are reasons why. And with the four basic steps, right? And basic is the way to go, basic and easy, guys. So step one, identify your goals. Which ones are need, right? I use the wood analogy. If you're constantly looking at a whole wood of trees and you're struggling to focus on one, work out what it is you've got to work on, cut down the rest, really look at what it is that you're meant to be working on, identify the must-dos as opposed to what you think everything that needs to be done. Write it down. Do that again. Oh, look at that. Studies show, let's do that, studies show that you are 42% more likely to complete goal if you write it down. So writing it down, identify it, write it down, understand you're 42% more likely to get stuff done. Still haven't sworn. Done quite well, haven't I? Understand your must-dos as opposed to everything else you think needs to be done. Make it easy to start, step two. Make it easy, right? Keep breaking it down. Keep breaking it down. Don't be frightened to break it down. Don't think you're not adequate enough or somehow I should be able to do this. Why can't I? It's okay, put it to one side. Make it smaller, make it achievable. Because again, momentum is the best thing. B3, be clever with your time. Spend it wisely. Understand where your energy and your flow is going. Right, if you're spending 2-3 hours on social media, there's some reason why you could be doing something else. What could you be using that time for? Know that it's about looking at things slightly differently, understanding that you may think all your time is being spent this entire wood, but actually if you cut down some of those trees, how much time is left? Like more than you think. Change it up, right? Give yourself hard rules, deadlines. Say, I've got to get this done by, and then I'm going to tell somebody it's going to keep me accountable. I'm going to tell my other half, I'm going to tell my coach. I'm going to message Helen and go, I'm going to get this done, or you tell me, and I will tell you. But change it up. Make it fun to some degree as well. Attach a reward to it for getting something done, right? As long as something moves, right? You will always feel more productive, feel like you're getting out of the groove, right? As soon as you do something. But doing something is better. Action's always the best way forward. And that's that one done. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to get through this one tomorrow. At someone's request, can I say? At a request. 17, count them, because I will be. I think somebody did this deliberately because they wanted me to get past 10 to see if I could run out of fingers. Because I might have to get some toes out on camera. 17 ways to eat more vegetables. Yep, you heard it first. You'll hear it again tomorrow. 70 ways to eat more vegetables. I admit I did a lot of research for this and I was pleasantly surprised. So I'm not going to do it on camera either. I'm going to eat 17 different ways of doing vegetables. If it was chocolate spread on and peanut butter, might have got involved. We know how that one went. In the meantime, as always, have a fantastic evening and I will catch you all tomorrow.